What's up, fellow nerds? How's it going? Just back again for another quick video, hopefully quick, of the last few weeks of comic reading. Busy few weeks, so I haven't read that many, but I just want to get straight to it. I am a wee bit behind on the more modern releases, so I'm a couple of issues behind in certain things, namely this one. Amazing Spider-Man number 20, or 821 as I prefer to say. Loving this story so far. I think I've mentioned before, I used to hate Humberto Ramos's art. I really enjoy it now. It's toned down, it sort of fits in with the story, it doesn't overtake the story, if you will. But it's still obviously his, you can tell it's him, but I like his stuff now. The story's going well. This particular issue is just Craven hunting the lizard. Good wee story so far. I have really enjoyed it. And I like the idea of it, yeah. So the next one I read is I finally got catching up with Detective 1000. All different stories, as you can see there. I have the general release cover there, and the only other variant I wanted to get, well, I did want to get one of the other ones, but they're £10 each, I mean, come on, was Greg Capullo's. Always been a long time fan of his. I'm glad he's getting the recognition that he is getting now. But yeah, lovely, great stories in it. Kevin Smith's story in it was really good about the melting down, spoilers of the melting down of Bruce got the gun that killed his parents, and he melted it down to turn it into body armor. It's a literal story about a figurative idea. It's a lovely wee story. I have another story of his though I'll get into next. All the stories in it were great. I like the idea of bringing the Arkham Knight in at the end as a new villain. It's interesting to see where that goes, but generally speaking, I can't quite remember most of the stories, but they're all, it was a really good issue. So next up, I'm doing this Extermination, the X-Men Extermination story all in one. Again, I like the idea of it. So if you don't know, spoilers, it's the time-displaced original X-Men team were brought from the past to kind of, based thought to have an idea to save the future or some rubbish like that. It was an idea, in my opinion, to bring back the official team because nostalgia, they think, sells. Nostalgia can sell briefly, but then what happens is you get sick of it and people want something new and different. And comics do it all the time. Bit of nostalgia, something new. Bit of nostalgia, something new. And the something new doesn't stick with the old crew. Me being one of the older crew, I'm 36. But I've followed X-Men since the cartoon, and I've collected comics for 16 years now. I always plan for something new. So when I'm going back and reading the 90s and early noughties stuff, there was so much newness in there. Again, with the late 80s, Chris Claremont pushing forward with all new stories. But then didn't he go back and do X Factor? And X Factor was just the old team. So they keep doing this every generation. And this story is about sending them back to their time period and conveniently making them forget everything. It's about tidying up loose ends. Story was good in that you have Ahab here coming from the future, one of many futures, and turning them into his hounds like Rachel Summers to hunt the X-Men. But it also deals with, I think it's this one, isn't it, with the spoilers, the death of Cable. Funnily enough, again, like I said, nostalgia sells, and Marvel are always one for, they do one thing but then they try and fix it quite quickly. So Cable isn't actually killed as such because he's killed by a younger version of himself. So while they get rid of the old Cable, they still have one. So I'm interested to see where this goes. Like I say, I have read Uncanny, that's coming up in a wee moment, but I'm not up to date because I do have literally hundreds of back issues to read from the 60s, 70s, 80s and everything, so I'm just reading when I feel like. Biggest issue was a lot of the story doesn't flow well in these stories. I felt in these books there's sometimes I had to stop and go, which panel do I read next? I don't understand where I'm supposed to go, and there were spoilers. So you opened up a double page and on the right hand side you can see the spoiler, you can see what's coming, instead of putting maybe a page of ads, or maybe wait until the page after or the page before or somewhere. The spoiler was already there and your eyes were taken across to see it, and it was ruined for you without getting there. I am a proponent, when I do write a comic, I'm always a proponent of that Spawn and X-Men 90s and 80s idea of the last page should be a big cliffhanger page to keep you going to the next issue. It worked for decades because it works. But generally, the story was good, and I'm glad that we've gone into something new, but the way it was written was fine, and I don't like New Jean. That is not, this here is not Jean Grey. I don't like the way she's drawn, I don't like her costume, and I don't like the fact they brought her back. They should have just let her be dead, but it's generally okay. So next up is the aforementioned Volume 5 or whatever Earth it is now, I've lost track, of Uncanny X-Men. I'm glad to do the Marvel Legacy numbering. I would follow the numbering. That's what I like, because like I say, I have most of Uncanny X-Men. Out of 640 issues, I'm only missing maybe 40 from all time, even way back to the 60s. So far, this story is interesting. Again, if you don't know the story, spoilers, Legion has fractured his psyche, his multiple personalities, and put them into multiple man clones. Interesting idea. Kind of new, again, different. I like the art, but again, it's Ed Brisson, and he writes a good story. He's a good idea, but his breakdowns, not that I can say anything because I'm not a writer, but his breakdowns I think need work. Again, too many spoilers are given away quickly, or you don't know what's happening. You don't know which panel you're supposed to read next. So far, fine. I'll be interested to see what Jonathan Hickman does with X-Men, with House of X and Powers of X. It'll be an interesting setup. I think this could potentially be a real big revolution in X-Men since Grant Morrison's new X-Men run, but we'll see. Next is random Batman issue picked up, number 342. The Man-Bat is back. It's about Batman taking on, or trying to find, just something happened with Man-Bat, and he goes to find Kirk and has a battle with Kirk, but it's just, from like I say, I read it a week or so ago. It'd be hard to remember, but I do remember it. It's a nice issue. It's a really good story. Yeah, it's a good one. I'd recommend it. It's nice. Picked it up for cheap. Now here we have what is maybe a controversial addition, or possibly Doomsday Clock. Is it everyone's cup of tea? Don't know. Are people happy it's a direct sequel to Watchmen? Don't know. Do I laud Watchmen as one of the greatest comics of all time? Yeah, probably. It's a graphic novel. It is best as a graphic novel form. I do own Watchmen. I have it as a graphic novel, but I don't own the books per se, because I think it is best to read it as one. Doomsday Clock. Some of the issues have been confusing as anything. This issue here is absolutely tremendous in my opinion. If I'm right in saying it's Jeff Johns writing it, the whole issue deals with the past, the present, the future, and I think it finally explains what happens with every time the DC universe got rebooted. It gives an explanation as to why Earth 1 or Earth Prime, forgive me, I'm not a DC fan per such, I'm a Marvel person mostly, why Earth 1 or Earth Prime is the main Earth, why that's so prevalent in the DC multiverse. It's gorgeously drawn. It's a real good homage to Dave Gibbons, but yet being its own. This whole issue is a wonderful testament to art, literally both the visual and writing skills. It has a really complex story, but done in a nice way and very humanized, and it has gone a long way into explaining what they're trying to do and who has been responsible for Flashpoint and for the resetting of the DC universe. So it'll be interesting to see how they tie it up in the last two issues. Just very quickly, Detective Comics number 1001. Back to the same old, not same old, back to your usual comic book. Big cover, lovely font, heading, look there, simple as, big bad villain. Trying to figure out who it is, but it's an interesting one. Nice idea. Arkham Knight is something to do with creating the light to dispel the darkness of Gotham. All the bats have been killed. It's maybe a bit contrived. It's quite on the nose. If you've read the story, they're talking about getting rid of the darkness, i.e. Batman, and just the crime of Gotham, but they do it quite literally. In the last page or so, they make a mini sun in Gotham, and like I said, kill all the bats. So it's a bit on the nose so far, but we'll see how it goes. Interesting so far. Breakout story of 2019 so far. Absolutely loving this. I hope they do it. If Marvel are watching this, I hope you do life story with all your other titles. I would buy them all. I love this idea. Now, I don't collect Fantastic Four or Thor or Iron Man or Cap. Here, you could even go back to Cap to the 30s or 40s. But I am loving this story. This Spider-Man story set as if he aged in real life. So now he's like 44. Or no, he can't be 44. It'd be about... He was bitten in 62 when he's 15. So he was born in 47. So yeah, he's about 46, 47 here. I think it's set in 95. A lot of these stories are great. They mention classic storylines or they mention classic instances, but they focus on one storyline. So spoilers, Spider-Man Life Story 4 focuses on the Clone Saga, and Ben Reilly is in it, and it's revealed that Norman was the architect of it all. It basically does the Clone Saga in about 3 pages instead of 1.5 years of real life and a couple of hundred issues of different stories, because the Clone Saga was overly big, convoluted and bloated, and took far too long to tie up than it should have. But it deals with Aunt May's death. Otto Octavius comes back as an old man. All the main villains are back. There's no Venom. I thought Venom would have been prevalent, but he's actually in Life Story 3 more. So it deals with that. It talks about Mary Jane and their kids. They have 2 kids and all now, and Parker Industries getting taken over by Stark Industries and things like that. Things that happened in the 90s while hinting at other things that did go on. So it'll be interesting to see the Naughties, because the Naughties I really like. You'll see Civil War. I've seen the cover now for number 5. It's good. It'll deal with probably Civil War, and he'll be in his 50s then. So it'll be an interesting take how you do Civil War, or how you hint at Civil War with a Spider-Man in his 50s. And then the teens, he'll be in his 60s. And the storylines will be, what were the big storylines of the teens? I'm trying to remember now. Dan Slott's run, so that'll be an interesting one. But loving it. If you haven't got it, get it. So earlier I mentioned Kevin Smith writing for Detective Comics. This is his Hit Girl one. I love Kevin. I will listen to Kevin all day long. I think he's a great guy. I watch his YouTube videos and occasionally find him I follow him on Instagram and stuff. I have mentioned Hit Girl Hollywood #1, the silent era, which there's no text in at all. It's a wonderful story. There's a few issues, I don't know where, maybe a Spider-Man or X-Men, but there's no talking. There's a Spawn issue, I think, as well, and they're great. I don't know if this was rushed, because I know the last issue of this is a double issue, number 4 here, but quite obviously as it goes along, 1, 2, 3, 4, it does decrease in quality. Issue 2 is great. 3, it gets into maybe slightly silly territory where it basically, they're in the story, there's a copycat of Hit Girl, and then the last one they kind of team up, which I didn't expect. I didn't think that she would, but then the reasoning behind the main villain here, these 2 guys, I can see why she would join her. The issue that I would have really with it is it becomes contrived again. Kevin is kind of repeating himself. I mean, he's got Jen Silent Bob reboot coming out, and that works because it's ironically funny that it's a reboot of his own film and it's taking the piss out of reboots. That's pretty funny. And I know he does a pastiche in Hollywood here, but again, what he's doing here is almost retreading, and he's retreading the past. Now, I do like the way they bring back the Genovese family in this. That's Chris Genovese, Red Mist, that we all know from the films. And he does bring that back in a nice kind of round way, because these Hit Girl one-offs that I've been collecting the last couple of years haven't really dealt with her past. She's just been going around aimlessly killing people for no reason. What she does in this is a valid reason, and it's very on the nose. I just think parts of it are a wee bit just repetitive, almost. That's all. But generally, it's good. Just going to quickly do these 2 here together. The current Tom King's Batman run, bit of controversy. He left it recently. Turns out he's going to write a film or something. Anyway, people thought it was because he wasn't doing well or weren't selling it. I really liked his run on Batman so far. Really liked it, especially these Nightmare storyline. He's done recently. So 69 here deals with his relationship with Catwoman. He's been trapped by someone, Bane I think it is, in the general storyline, and been forced to have these nightmares about different periods of his life. And this one deals with his marriage, or failed marriage, to Selena. I like it in that it gives us the answers as to why she called it off. It's lovely artwork, it's lovely breakdowns. Same as 70. 70 here deals with him getting out, fighting some of his classic villains, because every few years you need a good issue where, for whatever reason, Batman has to face all his villains. Whether back in the day it was Nightfall, or it was Zero Year, or 0 Hour, sorry, 0 Year, or Zero, yeah, or this one. It's just a random issue, because you don't get, the classics to face those villains back anymore recently. You'd have to go get the old issues, and not everyone can buy the old issues anymore. So it's every so often, and the artists want to draw those villains. So any reason to give the artist or the writer a chance to play with those villains, they'll take it. So it's just another Dreamscape issue, but it's good. I like it. And finally, I just read a random cull. It was a good storyline. It was really tired when I read it. The artwork in it is stunning. From that period, especially Dave. I think is it Doug Munch? Is that how you pronounce his name? Mankey? Don't know. Legendary writer, still going now strong. He was the real architect of the late 80s Batman and the stuff that I love. Good breakdown. Cull has been banished from Thumeria, I think, his kingdom that he took over. He's banished and he's kind of starting all over again. But I think the issue's about to end with number 18 and then it gets restarted. But no, so far so good. I'm loving the art and I'm loving the idea. My idea was to collect different types of comics. A couple of years ago I had this idea. Too many superheroes. And nowadays there's a lot of crime stuff, so I'm getting things like Analog from Image, or I'm getting Hit Girl stuff, Kick-Ass. What else was I getting? Men of Wrath by Jason Aaron. That was a great story. So things like that, or Postal. That was a good one as well. So I wanted to go back and get different genres. So I was like, what about adventure? So I got the Indiana Jones ones. What about sorcery? I'm not going to get Conan. Too many of them. Too expensive. Cull. I'm only getting the ones from the 70s and 80s. There's only about 50 issues. I've got them all. Great. Reading through them all now. What else could I get? I started thinking horror. I don't have any horror comics. I'll find a particular title and I'll buy those. But that's why I started getting these. But I would recommend picking these up if if you want a Bronze Age book and it's fantasy, I would recommend Cull. Very beautiful art, early stuff from a lot of legendary creators, and you can pick them up quite cheap. So, but anyway, guys, that's it for this week. I haven't read too many more. It'll be a couple of weeks before I get another reading one up. But stay tuned next week. I'm going to MCM Dublin Comic Con next Sunday, the 23rd of June, to meet the one and only Mr. Chris Claremont. Now that's a rarity for Ireland. So I have 8 or 9 books here sitting ready to get signed by him, and I will show that off next week, so I can't wait to show you that. So look guys, thanks for watching again. I hope I haven't kept you too late. Thanks for watching. Drop a like and all that jazz if you want to. Share it. If there's anything if I'm doing wrong, I want you to tell me if there's anything else that I could do a bit better. Maybe make these a bit more exciting, please. Let me know. I just want to show off my collection in the best way I can. So thanks for watching again, guys, and I'll see you later.